So thank you all for being a part of this convening. The theme of this conference was continuing the conversation, continuing the decrim conversation, a decrim dialogue. And as was stated at the very beginning, we had the first Intimate Conviction Conference in Jamaica in 2017. And it was at that time a very contentious issue to bring to Jamaica. And I suspect it still is, because the church in Jamaica is still heavily in support of criminalizing same-sex intimacy. And we see that there is some movement by the Anglican church and some other progressive leaders. But for the most part, the majority of church leaders were against decriminalizing. And so we wanted to interrogate why people who preach love every Sunday or Saturday believe that they should send consenting adults to prison for what they do in the privacy of their bedrooms. And that conversation has led to more conversations, because that's the only way we can actually resolve these issues. If we talk, instead of shouting at each other, if we talk, we have dialogues. And this dialogue has certainly broadened that initial conversation, because now we have participants from Africa, South America, North America, the Caribbean, and Asia. And the presentations were so rich, it is impossible to provide a synopsis of them, although I know Father Clifford has done a phenomenal job doing that after each presentation and each day. And I think the biggest takeaway for me from this entire conversation or this entire dialogue is that there's a lot of goodwill. There's a lot of hope. I, at one point, decided to take a step back from advocacy, because I thought I was beginning to get depressed at how dismal the situation looked. But listening to these voices has reinvigorated me. It's given me hope that there is a path forward. And it is, as some have said before, going to be a long journey, but we have started and we are continuing the journey towards complete liberation for LGBT people. And on this journey, we're very pleased to have people like Trinity Wall Street, Carpenter Foundation, Arcos Foundation, who have provided the tangible resources to make this conference possible. And behind the scenes, we had, of course, the great Nick. And at some point, we need to see Nick's face on this in this session, because without Nick, this would not have been possible. As we all know, or should know, this was supposed to have been an in-person conference in Barbados, and COVID upended that. But out of every challenge, there comes an opportunity. And I think because of the opportunity to meet virtually, we have engaged a broader audience. And we have persons viewing from all over the world. We have seen questions from Scotland, from the United States, from Canada, from the Caribbean. And so clearly we're able to reach a lot of persons through this medium. And Nick made it all possible. So Nick, greatest appreciation and thanks. I would like to just give you an idea as to what the follow-up will be. But before I do that, I must thank, of course, all our presenters who were very flexible and adaptable. There was change after change after change, and they rallied, and they were always willing to accommodate the new demands and readjust their schedules. So I'm deeply grateful for every speaker and the work that they've done in preparing for this conference and contributing to this critical dialogue. And going forward, we will capture some, if not all, of their presentations in another volume. A volume was presented initially and of the first conference, and the second dialogue, this second dialogue will also produce another volume of presentations, which we will use to continue the conversation with religious leaders, with politicians, with judges, with just about anybody who wants to have a theological underpinning for why we should have, as I've always said, a theology of decriminalization. Because in the same way that there had to evolve a theology of a theology against slavery, even though some interpret the Bible's statement, slaves obey your master, as a directive. We now know that that is not a position which the church supports. And that theology evolved and developed. And we are on this same journey with decriminalization. There is no way, in my view, as a lay reader in the Anglican Church of Canada, and as a Christian for more years than I care to remember, that the God I serve would ever want to send people to prison, sometimes for life, in some cases sentence them to death for their consensual acts of intimacy. So the work continues. We will have this work in tangible form for you to use in your, your various contexts. And we are going to continue with these dialogues, hopefully next in Africa. And we will continue this format, which is to have both theologians, academics, and I should say a third leg of the stool, civil society individuals, speaking about how these laws or how these theological views on these laws impact them and what needs to be done to address them. So thank you all again. And Nick, may we see you for one final goodbye?
Yes. Well, thank you very much to all the participants who I've interacted with to rehearse and get these 3 days of webinar going. Just need to mute people here to get a better sound. And thank you for having me as your technical host in the background. And towards the end, back over to you, Father Clifford, for some final words before I roll the end credits.
Nick, you're wonderful.
Thank you.
I haven't anything more to say. It's all been said. Thank you, panelists, keynote speakers, everyone that supported us and everyone that's viewed us. Sitting here, I felt that across the world, across the globe, to India, to the Philippines, north, south, east, west, we come, as I said right at the beginning, to the garden of God. And that's wonderful. So thank you all very much. And may the peace of heaven's kiss go with you. And may our enemies become our friends. God bless.